freaking first cut. Golly.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the First Cut Podcast. It is Tuesday, October 1st, officially the first day of spooky season. I am joined by the legend himself, the man who doesn't look a day over 30, Mark Immelman. Mark, what's going on, brother?
Spooky season indeed. Yeah. I'm turning 54 tomorrow, so hence your over 30 quip. I feel like I'm, I don't know what 54 feels like, but yeah, I'm thankful to be around. Nice to be with you. I've got my shirt on, freshly back from Canada. Yeah, it was a good trip.
It's sharp. I know the guys talked about it on Sunday night, but I would love to get your perspective on the whole week and everything. I guess personally, I saw a bunch of Immelmans running around there in Montreal. How was the week from a personal level and experiencing the city and all that?
Look, I thought the week was great. I thought the fans were awesome. Thursday morning was a little kind of lethargic a little bit, but I guess with the Americans getting up early, it sort of quietened the fans down. But from Friday on, they were raucous. And so the Canadian fans turned out en masse, which was fun. I thought the golf course was really cool for match play. I think if it's a stroke play event, they'd probably shred the place. But it was great for match play, lots of holes where you would see lead changes and stuff. Montreal was great. Truth be told, I was kind of weak because I was invited to 2 hockey games and I bailed on both pre-season over there because our hotel was quite close to the golf course, which is about 30 minutes or so outside of downtown Montreal. But all in all, the weather was great, nice and cool. The tournament was great. Kudos to the Americans; they played really well, and I'm sort of somewhat disappointed because I feel like it's just my opinion that perhaps for Saturday, certainly on the 36-hole day, the teams could have been lined up a little different because a 4-point lead is next to impossible to overcome. And then you add the power of the Americans with guys like Sam Burns and Colin Morikawa playing really well. That was always going to be a bridge too far. So all in all, it was close until we saw a bunch of the same groups for the internationals play twice on Saturday, and they just gassed them for Sunday.
How fun was Friday for you though, with that beatdown of the Americans?
There's no. It was fun afterwards. I was on the golf course with the Sungjae Hideki versus Patrick Cantlay Xander Schauffele game. So it was first out. And 7-6. If you still ask me that now, and I wouldn't believe you that was going to be the results. And then to tell me they were going to get out there with 5-0, given what happened the day prior, I would have bet everything I had on that not happening. But it's just it kind of started flowing, and there was a lot of momentum that started happening, and you just heard roars all over the show. Every group's got off to a fast start, which was kind of crucial. And the momentum just carried on. And then to be there at the end, because I finished the first game so early that I went in for lunch, and my producer sent me out to finish the final match with Scheffler and Hanley. And to watch that when, they snuck out the final points, the internationals, it was incredible on the car ride home because my colleagues were in New Zealand and Australia, me, and then John Swantek, our American host. And so the vibe was great then. But during the day, I'm still flabbergasted it happened 2 days in a row, once, let alone 2 days in a row.
Oh, it was insane. Friday was straight belt to ass beatdown of the Americans with the margin of victories and seeing, I think Hideki and Sungjae shot like 8 under an alternate shot.
Yeah,
what do you make?
Well, they made 7 birdies in a row in alternate shot. I mean, no one did that in best ball, and that's how ludicrous that level of play was.
So I wanted to ask you, what did you make of the quality of golf, both, or I guess across the first 4 sessions? The quality of golf in foursomes was so much better than in 4-ball. What do you make of that? Why do you think that was the case?
Again, there were so many things that I couldn't predict or even understand. The quality of golf in alternate shot was off the chain. Best ball was kind of weird because the place did set up well to sort of have someone who would put the ball in the fairway and then someone who could play some offense. But it was almost like Well, I will say this in singles, and I was just saying this to a lesson I was just giving before I rushed in here. That when I watched Hideki, because I called Hideki and Scotty on Sunday, and I just watched two guys, especially Matsuyama, who was playing not to lose, not playing not to lose. He was playing to be great, and he was lining up flags and just swinging aggressively. And if putts were missing, they were rolling past the hole. And that was weird in best ball because we didn't see that very much. But in alternate shot, it was weird in a format where typically you play kind of defense. They were just so aggressive. I still can't make sense of it, but the level of play in that format was incredible.
It was insane. It was one of the like you mentioned, there are a couple strange things that kind of happened this week. But to me, that was one of the stranger with just the scores that these guys were shooting in alternate shot. It was bonkers.
I do feel like the scoreline is not indicative of the tournament because there were so many close matches. I mean, on day one, in that 5-0 drubbing of the internationals, 3 games went to 18, and all 3 games, the Americans birdied the last hole, which is something they hadn't done in the past. So there's that. So those games were close. And then you're right, Friday was kind of one-sided score-wise. But then all those games on Saturday, they were nip and tuck for a long time. And it's just like, especially in the afternoon, the Americans outlasted the internationals. And it wasn't because of fitness. It's just because you got guys playing their 72nd hole in 3 days where you had some fresh American legs out there. And the shots you started to see from guys like Si Woo and Tom Kim and Adam Scott and that sort of crowd, you could see the fatigue. When you start missing late right, and there's then all of a sudden a fast hook, like you saw Cantlay hit off the 1 tee on 16. That's guys that are just tired. The legs aren't underneath them anymore in the golf swing. So, yeah, the scoreline doesn't sort of belies the how close it was for a long while.
I believe in totality, the US won just one more hole than the internationals throughout the week.
Ridiculous. I know. It's crazy. And that's why you speak to all the internationals, and I did a few of them, and they all they used the word, it's a feeling, and they got this feeling in the locker room. They're so cohesive, and you can sense the how they've unified behind that shield and how they play for more than just themselves. Even Matsuyama, I mean, Hideki never really shows much emotion. And alongside Sungjae, who was going on almost like Siwoo Kim at certain times, they were fist pumping after iron shots. Um, Playing alternate shot with Sungjae kind of loosened him up. And here's Hideki raising the roof with the crowds and fist pumping like aggressively when he'd make putts. And so you saw even a Matsuyama had sort of bought into this whole thing that's going on over there. So yeah, it's sort of sucked that the result was what it was, but there's a lot to build on. And I feel like next time, I just like them to kind of leave the whole data analytics thing a little bit and kind of go with your gut, once or twice. That's why you're the captain. But again, they know more than me. I was not in the team room, so I don't know. But I do find some of the Saturday afternoon groupings for the internationals curious.
Got to go with the eye test from time to time there, Mark.
Heck yes, I mean you know it. It's crazy. Like Adam Scott is in great shape, but asking that guy to play 5 rounds in 4 days, he's in his 40s,
Mhm.
and that's not only takes its toll physically. There's an emotional draining, and you could see how lethargic all the internationals were when they came out really slow on Sunday morning in the singles, and the Americans. What I think they won. I think it was more than 60% of the first 5 holes, and that just made the thing a bridge too far. So yeah, I felt like there should have been some splitting up of groups on Saturday afternoon.
I agree with you where I think the competition is getting closer and closer despite what the final score said. You think about day one, like you mentioned, day three also, it could have gone a number of different ways. And I really like what the internationals have built behind the shield. It seems like everyone's really buying into that. And I hate the people online who are clamoring for the PGA Tour to change this somehow because it feels like the internationals have momentum. It feels like they're getting closer and closer and they're building towards something. So I guess my question for you, Mark, is what do you think that missing piece is for them to get over the hump?
I cannot answer that question with any conviction, but I
Okay.
will say this. The most popular team competition is the Ryder Cup. People fall over themselves to watch this thing, right?
Mhm.
For years upon years upon years, that was so one-sided that Jack Nicklaus would say to them, "Hey, GB and I, let's invite the Euros in," which they did. Then it got a bit closer. And then Tony Jacklin, he got the Europeans to believe because he was the first guy to fly the Europeans on Concorde over to the United States, where the Americans would show up with all the gear and the cool bags and all of the money and stuff like that, and the Europeans were nickel and diming the thing. Now, the internationals over here aren't, but it could be something as small as that. Just that sense of belonging, that sense of meaning, that sense of ownership which they've got, and then the sense of we can hang with these guys. And it looked to me like the internationals believed they could hang with the Americans. They really did. And
Mhm.
so I don't think it's far away now because I feel like that bridge is being crossed. And I feel like this loss is going to aggravate them even more than the one in Charlotte did because they were in better shape than they were in Charlotte. Charlotte, they were almost dead to rights. And
Mhm.
then they came back and sort of made a game of it to be 4 points down Saturday afternoon. They fumbled it away to be 4 points down Saturday afternoon. So they were in the match. So I feel like maybe next time it's going to be in Chicago, which will be hard. But I feel like there's a little something going on over there. And so I don't think it's something changing. You know, people might be playing better, who knows? But I think it's on the way there and it's closer than people think.
I agree with you there. I do. I hate the I'm not a fan of many people on the internet, Mark, but certainly not those who want to change the President's Cup. I think it's
I
fine.
must
Just
yeah,
needs time.
listen, I must say this. I work for the PGA Tour. Disclaimer. You know, if you had maybe a Cam Smith,
Yes.
Joaquin Neiman and company, that would be a bit more parity. But that being said, the bottom end of the internationals lineup played pretty well. It was
Mhm.
more like when I got there, I was like, for these guys to be relevant, they need three guys to play well: Matsuyama, Adam Scott, and Jason Day, because those guys I figured we're going to see all the matches. They sit J Day the entire Saturday, which I didn't get.
Did
Okay.
not get that either.
And then Hideki played all the matches, but he had flashes of brilliance and flashes where it just looked like his game was inconsistent.
Mhm.
And Scotty just looked like every putt I saw him hit was coming up low and low of the hole and coming up short. So he had issues on the greens. But I have to admit that if you had some of the livers, that may even up things a little bit too.
Yeah. Certainly took a hit. We saw it there at Quail Hollow that
Yeah.
year when all those guys went over to live. Louis as well, Dean Burmeister. I mean, a lot of South African talent over there also. Okay, that is it for the President's Cup. We've talked enough about that from Sunday to now. Just wanted to get Mark's take on that. But we have to get into this week in golf. Kind of a busy week, Mark. We got the
Mm.
Sanderson Farms Championship. We got the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. We have the Korn Ferry Tour Championship as well. Jimmy Furyk's hosting an event on PGA Tour Champions too, if we want to dive into that. I know you did your homework there. But before we get into all that, we're going to hear a quick word from one of our partners.
A new crown awaits.
Brilliantly taken.
The journey to become European football royalty has begun.
A stunning goal.
The UEFA Europa League on CBS Sports Network and stream every match live on Paramount Plus.
All right, Mark, where you want to start? You want to start in Europe? You want to start in Indiana? Or do you want to start in Mississippi?
With one of my favorite tournaments in the world, please. And no, it's not. Well, I love the Sanderson Farms, but it's not not in Jackson, Mississippi. The old course, the Dunhill Links Trophy. It's a wonderful event. Three unreal golf courses. Pro-am format, celebrities are out there. Everyone has a ball. So let's start with the Scottish Sojourn.
All right, let's do it. The Alfred Dunhill Links, like Mark said, three beautiful courses between Kingsbarn, Carnoustie, and of course the old course there at St. Andrews. And a bit of a wrinkle this year. You got 14 live players in the mix. You have guys like Terrell Hatton and John Rahm who are trying to play 4 times on the DP World Tour to shore up their eligibility for the Ryder Cup. Rahm's coming off that playoff defeat there at the Spanish Open. Hatton played well. Patrick Reed is also Brooks Koepka. But then you have your DP World Tour usuals: Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, defending champion Matt Fitzpatrick, Bobby McIntyre. I think Bobby McIntyre might be playing with his father. Billy Horschel off the BMW PGA Championship win.
Told you guys he was going to do that. Remember that conversation?
He is the lock of all locks post Team USA snub. It's awesome. But an interesting wrinkle in addition to those live guys, Mark, is we have Andrew Waterman, aka Yasser, and then Jay Monahan also playing per the Telegraph. So it seems like it could be a big week, not only on the golf course, but maybe off the golf course there.
Do you think there's some Rissex Hotel meetings going on before and after golf?
There might be a few topics discussed behind closed doors.
Yeah, I think over a pint or two, perhaps. Look, it's a great golf course. You always have weather involved over there. The field is unreal. It truly is, which is cool because sadly, in many respects, this one where it was in the calendar, because the weather can get grizzly over there. A lot of the European tour guys would sort of skip this, but now it's glitterati at the great venues of the world over 4 days, and so it's going to be fun. Guys like Tyrrell Hatton. Tyrrell's got a wonderful record around the old course. So does Rory. So it's going to be lots of fun. You guys call it coffee time golf or whatever it is. So there'll be a lot of people watching it. And I honestly am pumped to sort of be done with work a little bit, so I can also wake up early in the morning and just kind of chill and watch golf a little bit and be a fan. Because if there's, this is to me true golf. They never really look like they stop for weather, which is fun. And then to see the views around King's Barns is incredible. So it's going to be a great one, and I'm sure there's going to be a really good leaderboard.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic month, really, on the DP World Tour. Between the Irish Open, the BMW PGA was great finish as well between Rory and Billy, and then leading up to this week. So certainly probably the event we all have circled this weekend. But another one with probably even more implications career-wise, we're going to go to Indiana. We're going to go to French Lick, Indiana for the Korn Ferry Tour Championship, Mark. 30 PGA Tour cards up for grabs. 17 already clinched, so we got 13 to go. One of the guys, Matt McCarty, already clinched the number 1 spot. He's actually playing on the PGA Tour this week, but Korn Ferry Tour Championship, some names that are notable on the outside looking in, or trying to secure that card. A Sam Bennett, a Tommy Two Gloves Gainey is in this field. We have Chris Ventura, Norwegian, of course, kind of known for being the other one alongside Victor Hovland. You have, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the text, Cole Hammer also. Careers will be changed this week, and lives will be changed this weekend there in Indiana.
Yeah, and Tour Championship, I've been fortunate, I guess. I've actually caddied in 3 of them. When it used to be PGA Tour qualifying, and it was 5 rounds at PGA West, where you have the stadium course out there, and you have the Nicholas Tournament course, and you have all of those desert golf courses over there. And I remember going over there, and with French Lick, it's the same thing. That stadium course back in the day, nowadays it's too short, really, but you used to be hitting 4 and 5 and 6 irons to these par 4s with these massive bunkers and moguls and water everywhere and rocks. And then 17, that Island Green Alcatraz, hitting 6 irons in there, where the modern day professionals hitting 9 irons and stuff, and wedges if the wind is right. But I just remember it's such a hard venue. It's so grueling. And then you've got this massive prize at the end of it, of earning a PGA Tour card. And to watch the emotions change, especially as you get closer to the end. I remember my first one I was there, Jesper Parnevik won tour school, and he shot 70, and he shot 79 in the first round, but then backed that up with like 64, and then was back in the mix. So that kind of shows you where you can have a bad round in there. Well, this week not so much because there's only 4 rounds, but used to be able to have like one bad round if you were really good the next 4. But this place around French Lick, which is long and difficult and demanding, it's going to be a grueling week. But at the end of all of it, you got the incredible emotion of earning yourself the PGA Tour card. So it's fun. It's not fun for certain people. It's that classic thing where one shot's going to make someone happy and one shot's going to make someone sad. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff coming down the stretch when I was at one of the tour schools. The guy I was caddying for was finishing on number 9, which is the sliding long par 4 with water down the right. And he's playing alongside a guy who hits the flagstick on his approach shot. He's like on the button, on the number. Hits the flagstick, the ball hits the flagstick, bounces off the green into the water. So it's that sort of stuff. And you'll see that happen this week at French Lick, because that closing stretch of holes, like 18 might be the hardest par 4 in the world. To make 4 over there to earn your card is going to be a tall task. But it's the kind of thing where at the end of it, if you have done it, it'll be like one of those feathers in the cap thing. And where you're like, okay, I've done this, I belong kind of deal. But they are going to be a fair share of those heartbreak stories, which are never fun.
No, they're not. Some other notables in the field. You got Kyle Westmoreland, Daniel Summerhays. We've got Braden Thornberry, former world #1 amateur as well. Alvaro Ortiz, Carlos's brother. Interesting. Doc Redman, Richie Wierenski. Oh, hitters only.
Yeah, but listen to those guys that you're listing over there, like Daniel and with Braden and stuff. These were kind of can't miss kids, huh?
Yeah, Braden, I remember coming up playing golf, and it was like, oh, he's in the field? Uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly. And so you got these guys now there that people have sort of forgotten. But if you had this conversation 6 or 7 years ago, you'd be like, oh, no doubt he's making it. And that just shows you the level of play right now. And if you just kind of fall on hard times a little bit, you find yourself at Korn Ferry Tour School. So yeah, it's a tough school all around. And again, to me, makes the argument for having 2-round cuts on the tour. It makes the argument for having relegation, and makes the argument for having the all exempt tour like the PGA Tour. So it's that earned thing, and when you get onto the tour, it's a big deal.
We will transition to the tour now. We're making our round all around the world. The Chicken Championship, Mark, the Sanderson Farms Championship in good old Jackson, Mississippi, the second event of the FedEx Cup Fall. We've got technically 3 President's Cup participants in the field. We've got Mackenzie Hughes. Can you name the other 2?
No, I put the President's Cup behind me. Are they Americans?
One from each team. They didn't hit a golf shot last week.
Oh, so they're captains. Stuart Sink?
Nope.
No, Kevin Kisner?
No, another bald guy, though.
Oh, Brant Snedeker.
Brant Snedeker is in the field, as well as Camilo.
Oh, right. Yeah, Camilo. I spent a lot of time with him. Seemed that the groups I was covering, that's who he was shepherding around the place. He is so motivational. He's such a good guy. I did find him sort of making practice swings at times. He'd sort of lean into a player's bag and grab a club and make a practice swing. So maybe that was the preparation for this week. Kisner's story, though, on the one hole, a final round, the first hole, Scotty holds the bunker shot for birdie, or he dunks it for birdie. And Kisner was with him. Kis comes walking past me and he goes, how about that, huh? And I'm like, yeah, it was pretty good. I'm like, you've been teaching him short game lessons. And he says to me, Kisner, that is, in a fit of, so you sort of un-Kevin Kisner like maybe. He goes, no, man, I'm learning from watching these guys play every day. And when someone like Kis would say something like that, I'm like, yeah, you're kind of right. Because if you watch these guys play, they're at a different level when they're playing in that sort of an environment. And they do stuff that's just special. And you must pay attention, because if a tournament winner like Kisner is learning, everyone can learn if you're watching.
Also in the field, of course, Mackenzie Hughes. He leads the current, I guess they call it the next 10, but that 51-60 in the FedEx Cup. Those who are trying to get into Pebble Beach, trying to get into the Genesis Invitational. Mac leads the way, former champion at this tournament, won a playoff a couple years ago over Sepp Straka. Patrick Rogers is in the field, Matt McNeely, Seamus Power and Harris English, but also a couple guys who are just on the outside looking in, like a Ben Griffin, Emiliano Grillo. We got a Ricky Fowler sighting this week, Mark. He's in the field. So one that obviously a lot to play for when it comes to being able to select your schedule a little bit there in 2025, but kind of wide open field.
It is, and it's a good golf course too. Country Club of Jackson. The greens are always immaculate because it's at that time of the year now where it's just fall enough where you get a little cool in the morning, so the greens get firmer and faster. And I remember back to the very first one that Peter Malnati won. I mean, he held putts from 40, 50, 60 feet. I mean, those things were like billiard tables. And if you were seeing lines, you could make anything. And then there's just enough because you know, living in the Southeast with Bermuda rough around here, when it's summertime and it's lush, you know, you're kind of guessing out there, but you kind of know the ball's going to come out a little slow. But this time of the year, when the grass is just getting a little wispy and it's about 2 inches deep and just a little dormant, that's when you start getting those flowers. And if you get a flower or two out of that rough to these firm greens, if indeed they are firm, now they might not be given Hurricane Helene that rumble through the Southeast. I don't know what the golf course is like. I haven't heard. But when you're coming from the rough, that sort of wispy stuff to firm greens, it's next to impossible. So it's always a fun watch for me. I think the golf course is great, and the way they set it up really lends itself to rewarding good shots, which is good.
As a guy who grew up on bent grass, the transition to Bermuda has not gone smoothly. It has been a pain in the ass, Mark. It is horrible.
It's a challenge. People don't realize, the putting is one thing. Reading the lies in the rough is another. Mm-hmm. I'm here to say that chipping and pitching off Bermuda is so hard.
Oh.
When I was a college coach, I would make my career from bringing over talented young South Africans, but they come off Kikuyu grass, which perks kind of like zoysia. The ball sits up. So they're all pickers a little bit off with the iron game, and around the greens, they never really use the front edge of the club very much. Then you get them on a tight, sort of somewhat moist Bermuda lie down here, and they got no chance. They hit the ball 3 feet in front of them. So it would all take them a little while to get used to, especially the stuff around the greens, because that's where the real challenge lies.
Yeah, I have never putted as much as I do now from around the greens. It's like, could I do this?
That's also because you're getting a little older and you got some scar tissue building up.
Whoa, Mark, let's not talk about age right now, okay? All right, we will get into the best bets, the one and done, obviously, which I don't think got off to a roaring start there at the Pro Core Championship. So we're going to get into both of those after a quick break from one of our sponsors.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
We are back. For those of you new here, the way this works, our best bet segment, we have $50 for a matchup, $30 for a finishing position, and two $10 outright bets. Mark, you've stuck to the Sanderson Farms Championship. I went all over the world of golf personally because I am a madman. My matchup, I sided with your fellow countryman, Louis Oosthuizen at -105. Over Patrick Reed there at the Alfred Dunhill Links. Louis has a great record in this tournament. He's been playing great in 2024. Patrick Reed, honestly, hadn't really had a good year. And this is only his second time playing this event. I think the last time was like 2011 or something like that. So I'm going to go with the South African at -105 over Patty Reed in my matchup. And Mark, who are you eyeing in this department?
Well, the reason why I didn't go all over the map was I couldn't navigate the website very well. Showing my age. Because I would have liked to have found the odds for the Dunhill Links Championship. Anyhow, I'm going with a guy I've got to know a little bit over recent times, spent some time with him when we were in Scotland for the Genesis Scottish Open. and that's Justin Lauer. And he's sort of, he's kind of workmanlike to me. Golf swing is idiosyncratic, it's his. But it looks to me over recent months that he's really finding a little groove. And he's got that sort of bulldog mentality about him where he's going to find a way and he's going to just scratch and claw and do everything possible to put a score on the board. And with a little form, I was looking through the matchups for the Sanderson Farms, and there was not anything really worthwhile. So of them all, I felt like this one, where it was almost close to even money over Rico Hoey, was a good move. So I'm going with Lauer.
I like it. That is Justin Lauer, -105 over Rico Hoey at the Sanderson Farms. And I got Louis Oosthuizen, same price over Patty Reed across the pond. Finishing positions, $30. I'll toss it right back to you, Mark.
Had him, well, he's coming up on my podcast, Joel Damon. So I got a little insider knowledge. Yep. And he seems like he's in a good place for me. The golf swing's coming into a little bit of a groove. He's playing with a bit more confidence. There's been a few more good results here of late. We'll come into this event rested. Joel will. And, you can just sense when a golfer's in a good headspace because they don't bemoan their fate and they're more thankful for everything that happens. And to me, that's where Joel sounds like he is. So top 40 for Joel Damon +120. I couldn't look away. I was like, yeah, sign me up.
I like it. And that's on the Mark podcast. You can find that everywhere you listen to your audio podcast. There you
go. Had Adam Scott on there, by the way. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, keep them coming, star after star. Are you kidding me? And subscribe to his YouTube channel while you're there. I'm going to Furyk and Friends, PGA Tour champions. Vijay Singh, top 5.
That is a great bet, man.
+350. I was looking at the Big Easy a little bit. I was looking at Ernie Els, but I was like, maybe there's a hangover spot coming off. Coming off the President's Cup. Who knows? VJ's been playing some good golf, back-to-back top 10s. I was looking for Stricker because he dominates that tour. He's not in the field. And so landed on Singh, top 5 +350. 1-for-1 lifetime betting this tour. So I'm feeling hot in it.
I think that's a great bet because VJ lives down there as well, so he knows the golf course. I did see a few of the international boys in the airport on Monday.
How are they feeling?
I didn't go to the party, but the word tame was used. They had a good time, but it wasn't raucous like it's been in the past. So, so maybe Ernie's still got a little gas in the tank. But last week was a long week, and I saw him out there a bunch. He's a legend, man. Ernie's the best.
He is. All right. And so no Ernie Els for me. Vijay Singh, top 5 +350. And we are going with On the Mark podcast guest, Joel Damon, top 40 at +140 or +120. Mark, give the listeners both your outrights.
I'm going with the President's Cup bump because that's happened before. And so the Mackenzie Hughes I saw last week, man, I was scared his eyeballs were going to burst out of his head. That's how intense he looked. I mean, he was so up for this. Mackenzie, it's like he relished the President's Cup. I wished he'd had a better record. He had the one victory, but then had a couple of losses. But I feel like coming off there, he'll sort of play a little free, going to a place in Jackson, Mississippi, where he's played well. So I'm going with Mackenzie Hughes with a President's Cup bump, a lot of confidence as one of my outrights. And then the other one, down in the South, you got to go with golfers from the South, don't you? I mean, you just talked about how difficult Bermuda grass is. And in my estimations, there's not many much better than Nick Dunlap. So give me the Alabama boy. Roll Tide. He's coming off a big victory last week against Georgia. That game was epic. So Dunlap and Hughes, both for me, both +2,500.
And I am on Dunlap as well. Love the logic, Mark. I mean, this guy's won twice already on the PGA Tour in 22 starts. The upside is undeniable from the part of the country. Should be comfortable. I love it. And then I'm going to the Korn Ferry Tour Championship. I'm going with Carl Phillips, 35-1. A guy who might be on that International President's Cup team in 2-4 years. A ton of upside, Australian.
Oh, okay.
Many people probably know him from his YouTube channel. That's what Josh got me hooked on. Documented his journey up to Stanford, was really kind of the guy with Michael Thorne Bjornsson on those teams. Just masher of the golf ball. Won in his 4th start out there on the Korn Ferry Tour. So love him at 35-1 as well. But that is not all because
hold on, wait. Let me come in on the back of your argument about Carl.
Yes.
His golf instructor is a guy called Colin Swatton, who was a longtime caddy and coach for Jason Day.
Okay.
And Colin and I were chatting last week, and he was glowing about how Carl was playing. So nice pick there, buddy. You're going to reach out on the limb. I think you've done well.
There we go. I mean, I knew that too. I didn't, but still, it counts.
Yeah,
appreciate the edit.
Premonition, you connected in the ether.
Yeah, a lot of good juju right now. All right, that's not all. We got 50 extra dollars from producer Josh for a best bet. And look at us. Mark, not in the red yet. So we're going to say that's a positive based on your 2024. And you are leaning heavily
on Mackenzie. It's the bum.
Mackenzie Hughes. What you got for us?
Well, look, there's only 3 Canadians in the field. It's Mackenzie and Adam Svensson and Roger Sloan. So I figured, let's go with Mackenzie plus 105, try and get on the board, because whenever these Moneyball things have happened, I have absolutely sucked. So I'm trying to go with almost a guarantee here. So let's go, Mackenzie. INT.
I will say, Mark, the INTs need some.
That needs help. Yeah, it needs help.
Yeah, some songs or something, some chants. They got time. They got time. 4 years.
There were a few good ones. The Fanatics, they weren't there, and those guys have some tremendous songs. I mean, I'll never forget the Ryder Cup when the Molinari brothers were playing, and they were grouped together, and on the first tee they're going, 2 Molinaris, there's only 2 Molinaris. That's like one of the best songs I've ever heard. And then there was Si Woo, the one. And then this week, I think the best one was Matsuyama. So that,
okay.
It was sedate this year.
Yeah, we'll get creative. We'll get the creative juices flowing. Maybe they need some ghostwriters. I'm available if needed.
No, you got more GPs now. You don't have time for that.
That is true. So that is Mac Hughes, low Canadian, plus 105. I love that bet, Mark. And I'm going across the pond. Rory McIlroy, 7-1 to win the Alfred Dunhill Links. Couple heartbreaking losses these past 2 tournaments for him at the Irish Open. Rasmus kind of beat him down the stretch, and then at the BMW PGA Championship, unable to make birdie on the 72nd hole, and then loses to an eagle from Billy Horschel in the playoff. Playing great golf, plays great in this event. Sign me up. He's due. He is due. So that's Rory McIlroy, 7-1. Okay. And one last thing. The FedEx Cup Fall 1 and Done. This edition of the One and Done is brought to you by Supreme Golf. Mark, did you know it's the world's largest tee time marketplace? Did you know that? Largest in the world.
You know what? I did not, but I do now, because you're a star. You go from writing, podcasting, on camera. Now you're doing the reads. Gee whiz. The trend is, if you're a stock, I'm buying. Very nice.
Stop it. Supreme Golf.
Supreme Golf.
All right. Here are the pennies that we compiled at the Procore Championship. Greg is in first place with almost 44,000. Josh has a hair over 26. Rick, 14.5. Mark and I, bottom of the barrel. The basement boys.
Kyle
cellar
Porter,
dwellers.
We need
Yeah,
KP back.
honestly, that's the biggest hit for us is we don't have that basement buffer anymore. So we could be exposed in the coming weeks. Mark, who do you have at the Sanderson Farms Championship?
I did a bit more thinking about this pick. When it was sprung upon us a few weeks ago for Napa, I just picked the first name I could think of. And that didn't work out very well. Although Mark Hubbard did shoot 67 or something in the first round, was in position, then missed the cut. But anyhow, I'm going with a homeboy. Again, playing on Bermuda grass. I've been texting back and forth with him. I'm trying to get him on the podcast too, by the way. We're just trying to find the dates. Davis Riley. He's had a couple victories now on tour. I'm looking for him to go back home. He's fresh off a family vacation in Italy, so he hasn't touched the golf clubs very much, but I feel like he'll be fresh. So let's go with Davis Riley this week.
You know what part of Italy?
I haven't asked him yet, no.
I was going to say, I mean, if you're digging that deep, could be a hell of a pick. I went with Taylor Moore, SEC boy as well. Good history here. I didn't put a ton of thought into it. I like Taylor Moore when we get into SEC country. That's kind of my logic, and I think he's a very good golfer. So Taylor Moore, that's kind of it. Pretty simple. And I mean, we should remind the listeners the stipulations here, where we can't use anyone who finished inside the top 50, and we can't use anyone who we used already in the 2024 regular season and postseason. So that's why we're landing on these names. Rick and Greg both went with Patrick, don't call me Lawrence Fishburne. He's been playing some great golf lately. Third place finish there at the Pro Core Championship. I believe this is his first start at the Sanderson Farms. And then Josh went with Cameron Champ, a former champion, ironically. I don't know if that's how irony works. And so those are our 5. Greg at 43. Fishburne, Rick at 14.5. Fishburne, Josh in the middle of those at 26. Champ, Moore for me, Riley for Mark at 0.
Whenever I see Patrick Fishburne's name, I laugh because one of my on-course guys is a guy called Tyler Strong, who is actually, he does a little, writing about betting and gambling on the side. But
I follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, Tybo, he's hilarious. Okay. And he gives me information, but he comes up with stuff that just hits me from left field. And we're walking along the golf course one day, and he's there with me, and he's watching leaderboards a bunch. And the one thing he goes, look at that, there's a typo on the ShotLink board. And I look over, and it's Fishburne, but they've spelt it Fishbrun. So they got the U and the R alternated, right? So I'm giggling to myself, and everyone, he's like, no one's changing. This is bothering me. So lo and behold, a couple of weeks ago when Fishbrun played well there in Napa, our group text, first thing I see is they still haven't changed the dude's name on the leaderboard. So if he's contending, watch for the spelling of his name on the leaderboards. They have it as Fishbrun.
All right. Hopefully, for Greg and Rick's sake, Fishbrun will have a good week. Mark and I won't necessarily be rooting for that. Once again, that edition of the One and Done is brought to you by Supreme Golf, Mark. I believe that's how they want us to say it. The world's largest tee time marketplace. You got anything else? I think that's all.
No, I'm going to have to go to Supreme Golf because I've got time now this time of the year to play some golf. So yeah, I'm going to go and do a little side visit and see where I can go and what I can get the deals for.
How is the game these days? Good?
Non-existent, but we're going to practice.
All right. That's all you can ask for. Mine is also non-existent. I've not played in quite some time.
I did play. I did play the other day, and I would say if I was handicapping myself, I'd give myself like a solid 10 handicap.
Okay. I mean, that's dangerous. I would argue anywhere between 8 and 12, aka 10, I believe, if my math is correct.
Yeah, there you go.
That's where you want to be when it comes to giving strokes, I think.
But I'm wrestling. I'm wrestling right now because I used to be able to play the game back in the day, and now I just remember shots that I used to be able to hit, and I can't hit those anymore. And then the golf teacher in me has got a different swing thought for every shot. So it's like it's like a herd of cats inside of my brain. But we'll try and clear that out and go in the right direction.
Here's one last question for you because I haven't asked you enough yet during this episode. As a teacher, do you see a teacher?
No. I've never. I don't think I've had actually, I've had a couple formal lessons in my life, but it was more when I was in college. No, I sort of try and help myself, which is disastrous. Maybe I'll ask someone. I always want to go and see the boys from AMG, Athletic Motion Golf. They're up the way here in Georgia, and I respect them highly. So if I do, I'd probably go up there.
Okay, fair enough. I've always wondered that, right? Because you're like, oh, this guy's teaching me that. Are we sure, man? Like, I'm also a teacher.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to pay to some duty's astronomical rates to tell me something I was going to teach myself anyway. That's wrong.
That's true. You have the knowledge. Might as well apply it. Okay.
Yeah.
That is all we have for our Sanderson Farms, Alfred Dunhill Links, Korn Ferry Tour Championship podcast. Be sure to follow us on Golf on CBS YouTube, download, subscribe, all that jazz, as well as on the Mark podcast with Joel Damon upcoming and perhaps Davis Riley in the near future. For Mark Immelman at Mark_Immelman, I was Patrick McDonald and Patrick McDonald, technically. This was the First Cut podcast. We'll catch you guys next time.